This video is about wish statements and the unreal past, and how the unreal past functions with wishes. I also recommend the video on conditional sentences to see how the unreal past works with that grammar. So we're going to start with a statement, I have to work tonight. The statement is my reality, unfortunately. But I wish I didn't have to work tonight. This is a wish statement. Now maybe you're thinking, well, of course it's a wish statement. It begins with I wish. But just so you know, it doesn't have to begin with I wish. This could also be a way of making a wish statement. But let's look at the structure here. So I have this sentence, I wish I didn't have to work tonight. It is comprised of two clauses. An independent clause, I wish, and the other part is the dependent clause. What I'm really saying is I wish that I didn't have to work tonight. The word that is optional. This dependent clause is a noun clause. Many noun clauses begin with an optional that. So that's the structure of the clauses, but let's really focus on the verbs. That's what's important here. So if you look at the verb in the reality, have, versus the verb in the wish statement, you'll see it takes a very different form. And that's generally how we express a wish when we're showing that reality is different than what we wish, or what we wish is different than reality. The verb has to change in a certain way. So a wish is how we express the way we want reality to be different than it is. And let's look at some examples where the verb change occurs. So look at the first example. That's the one I've already been using. Notice that in the reality, the verb is affirmative, and in the wish, it's negative. Also, in the reality, the verb is in the present, and in the wish, it's in the past. Same thing in the next example. This is with the verb to be. You are in the present, affirmative. In the past, you weren't, negative. If the reality is negative, look at the third example, then the wish is affirmative. It is the opposite of reality. Certain modals have past forms, like can't, for example. Can or can't become could or couldn't. And the final example, will or won't, would become wouldn't or would. This is an interesting example, first of all, to note that when I'm using will like this, it actually has a present meaning. He continues to bother me, or continues not to leave me alone. I'm not actually talking about the future. But the other thing of note here is that in the other examples, the subject in the wish, the subject in the independent clause is the same as the subject in the dependent or wish statement. But it doesn't have to be the case. So here I have a subject, I wish, and then the new subject, that he would leave me alone. So we can always change the subject as well. So why is the verb changing like this? Why am I going from the present to the past? Is it because in the past they could swim but now they can't, or in the past I didn't have to work? Well, that's not the case, because this is not a real past. This is called the unreal past. And the unreal past is a very special form of the verb. Although it looks exactly like the regular past form, the meaning is unreal. It's hypothetical. So this is how we express hypothetical situations in English. We use the past tense, but it's not a real meaning. So what you see on the left here is the real past. And one dead giveaway is the time expression last night. This really happened. She called me last night. But an unreal meaning of the verb called on the right, I wish she called more often. This means that in reality, she doesn't call very often, which is present. But I use the unreal past to express a hypothetical present, not past. Another example, they were listening when I told them, etc., etc. I wish they were listening to me now. They're not listening to me in this moment. I wish they were. In the real past, I'm thinking about a specific moment before that really happened. Let's see an example with could. Now, could takes a past form of can to talk about ability in the past. So in the real past, we couldn't see the parade. I'm thinking of I was at the parade, but I couldn't see it. Right now, I am at the parade, and I can't see it, but I wish that we could. This unreal meaning often causes a lot of confusion for our students because the students are used to thinking of the past as a real thing. In addition to that, the form of a hypothetical verb in Spanish, for example, is very different than in English, and so this causes a lot of confusion for that as well. One more thing to note about the unreal past, have a look at this example. So real, I was at the beach. Unreal, I wish I were at the beach now. I'm not at the beach now, but I wish I were. Many people, many native English speakers will say, I wish I was at the beach, but this is the correct form. For any subject, I wish I were, I wish she were, I wish they were, I wish he were, I wish it were. This is the grammatically correct form of the verb to be in the unreal past. Now, in everyday English, most native English speakers will say, I wish I was, and we tend to overlook it, and that's fine, but we should make sure that our students understand that this is the grammatically correct form. All right, another thing to note, I'm going to go back to these examples that we saw. Students often immediately think that the definition of a wish is a verb that's the opposite of the reality verb. But that's not really the case. It's not like, okay, I'm going to take the verb have and make it past and negative. That could work in this case, but there are other ways to express reality being different. It doesn't have to be exactly flipping the verb. So I'm going to take these examples and make reality different, and it's still a wish. I have to work tonight. I wish I had the night off. It's another way of saying I wish I didn't have to work. But like I said, students will fixate on making the verb negative if it's affirmative in the reality, but that's not necessarily the case. Just the idea has to be contrary to reality. And you can see in these other examples, we could switch the verb entirely, like in the second example. You are becomes you wish you had a job. Again, it's an idea that's contrary to the reality. It doesn't have to be exactly opposite of the verb. And you can see some more examples of that here. This is really important because you'll get students that will literally just change things directly, like, he's too short. He wishes he weren't too short. You're going to see this a lot. Grammatically, I suppose that's fine, but a native English speaker would never choose to say that. They would probably say something like this. So something else to make sure your students practice is not only flipping verbs around, but the idea itself. This can cause a serious problem when students try the second example. I don't like my new roommate, and they say, I wish I liked my new roommate. Generally, that's not what the person is thinking when they say, I don't like my new roommate. They're probably thinking this. So the students should think about logically about the sentences and not just automatically changing the verb around. Okay, so far we've seen wishes about changing our present reality, but we can also make wishes about things that have already happened. We can make wishes about the past. And so here's what past wishes look like. So the reality is in the past. It's in the real past. She got fired. And the wish, you'll notice, takes the past perfect form. She wishes she hadn't gotten fired, but she did. So in the present, when we make a wish, the verb form takes the unreal past. And in the past, the wish takes the past perfect form, which is an unreal past as well, but it must be the past perfect. You can see the other examples here as well. In the third example, you might use a past modal instead of a past perfect. We couldn't see the parade. This is a modal in the past. Often, it's possible to use a past modal. I wish we could have seen. But you can also use a past perfect form by using a different way. A different way of expressing can or could is to be able to. So we can also use a past perfect had been able to. Something, again, about common errors, especially for native speakers. Have a look at these sentences. These are not correct. Grammatically incorrect sentences, though any native English speaker understands when these sentences are said. But if I say the first one, for example, I wish I went to the party last night. Last night already happened. That's in the past. I didn't go to the party, so I wish I had gone to the party. By saying I wish I went to the party, I'm talking about the fact that I don't go to the party now. But then when you add last night, there's a conflict between the tense and the time expression. So technically this should be the past perfect. Same thing with the next example. That was stupid. The thing I did was stupid. I wish I hadn't done, not didn't do. Again, any native English speaker might say one of these sentences incorrectly, but everyone will understand. But we need to make sure that our students understand that this is the correct grammar.